What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be checking out Britain's massive artillery factory. Came across this video and this topic just sounds interesting to me. I honestly know nothing about how artillery is made. And so that's what I'm hoping we're going to find out today. But this is Britain's largest artillery shell factory. They're currently making ammo for Ukraine, it sounds like. And supposedly we're going to see how shells are made, the changing role of artillery, and the stockpile shortage facing Europe. I think this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I think this is right up my alley, guys. I've always been interested in learning about how things are made.
Yeah.
I don't think this would be a topic that I would probably just randomly think of on my own.
Right, yeah.
But I'm excited to learn about this.
Same.
So anyways, guys, enough rambling. Let's go ahead and jump into Britain's massive artillery factory.
Alarm bells are ringing that artillery is running out. Despite the drone revolution, it's the world's most in-demand weapon that could yet decide the fate of Ukraine. We've come to the BAE Systems factory in Washington, the largest ammunition factory in the UK, to look at how they manufacture 155mm artillery shells.
Dang.
Look at those shells.
Changing the nature of war, but artillery is one of its constants. It's one of the weapons that is still defining conflicts. I've seen that in Ukraine. I've been with the crews of AS-90 guns. I've been with the crews of Soviet-era guns on Ukrainian army blasting Russian positions. Why is it important? Well, because artillery can't be jammed. It's immune to electronic warfare. The staff here are now working shifts 24/7. Round the clock, 7 days a week. Let's go and have a look and see how they do it. An artillery shell is, in essence, just a large bullet that's fired down a large barrel by a large explosion. But modern artillery shells tend to have one key difference, and that is that unlike bullets, which are solid lumps of lead, artillery shells are packed full of explosives, and that means when they hit their target, they deliver two kinds of effect. There's the kinetic effect, the lump of metal hitting a target at speed, just as with a bullet, but there's also the explosive effect. The cargo inside the bottle explodes on the target. There are essentially three key parts to an artillery shell.
Hold on. So, max range of 32 kilometers. Explosive field. Yeah, that does seem pretty far.
At the front, there is the fuse that determines when the explosives inside the shell ignite and explode. There's the bottle, or the body of the shell itself. That is the largest part that gives us its shape. That is normally hollow and filled with high explosives. And then at the tail end is where the propellant charge goes. Now, that is what propels the shell out of the barrel towards its target. And the first stage of making any artillery shell begins in the forge.
You know, on the surface, when you see it, you just think, okay, it's just a big hunk of metal. But there's so much more to this.
I just figured it was full of gunpowder. But apparently not.
These are the billets. This is the actual start of the process.
Billets.
Yeah,
that's what you call them.
Yeah.
And so they're basically lumps of
steel.
Lumps of steel.
Yeah.
How heavy is each?
About 65 kilograms, I think these ones are.
Okay, so that's about twice as heavy as the finished product.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's just a hunk of steel. Wow.
And then the robot picks the billet up, puts it into an induction heater. You can follow this. Heats them up to about 1100 degrees.
And that's in along here, 1100 degrees.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to touch that.
But I'm not feeling much heat.
No, you won't.
Interesting.
And it takes it's actually about 45 minutes to get right through.
That's a long time. Oh my God.
That is hot.
Yeah. Good thing they have the robots to do that.
Yeah. Imagine before they had the robots.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Now it's the actual shape of the body.
Yeah.
Notice that?
It's quite satisfying to see.
It is, don't I?
Wow.
What's that? Cooling?
Probably.
From there, they come out up through the floor onto a cooling conveyor, which runs them up to what we call the belt. And they're cooled about 3 hours.
Wow.
How is an artillery shell fired? So once it's been loaded into the barrel, the breech has been closed. A firing pin strikes the propellant charge. That creates an explosion. The explosion creates hot, expanding gas at the bottom of the barrel behind the artillery round. That heat then seals the obturator. The obturator is a part of the shell which stops those gases escaping, and therefore the only way for those expanding gases to get out of the barrel, to have the space they need, is to propel the shell forwards along the barrel. At the same time, there is normally a part on the shell called the driving band. This is a soft metal, sometimes copper, around the thickest part of the shell, which engages the rifling in the artillery barrel. So as that shell is propelled down the barrel,
Spins the
it
shell.
starts to spin, and that gives it more accuracy. The next thing we would see is a puff of smoke and possibly flame as those expanding, burning gases erupt out of the barrel,
Man.
sending that shell hurtling
Rocks the whole
towards its
thing.
target.
And they're sending that literally up to 32 kilometers.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
I would not want to be on the other end of that.
You think?
Good Lord.
This is the switcher, right?
This is the switcher, yes.
So you've taken those forgings, turned them slightly so they look silver, and what happens in here?
What happens in here is it gets heated up from the induction heater, very hot, pushes it into a mold and shakes it into shape.
That's the hollow end of the cylinder.
Yes, the hollow end, and then that then forms the shape. What you would see is like you'd think it's a shell.
Wow.
That's really cool.
That is awesome.
So behind me
And
is
no
a furnace
humans
where they're
touch
heat
it.
treating the shells. So they go through a process of washing them, heating them, cooling them, washing them. And that's all about affecting the tensile properties of the steel. That affects how it fragments, how it explodes when it's used as a weapon.
I wonder how heavy
So what we
the
saw
finished
is
product
Alpha
is.
Doors opening a
Probably
crate
pretty
full of
heavy.
shells being pushed into the
They're
plate.
massive.
And they're going to sit there now for about an hour and 40 minutes.
I think I told us at the
This is the
beginning.
last
but-
stage of semi-finish. It'll come to me and I'll hardness test every shell. So I'll get 24 shells which have already been linished for us. And what I've got to do is lift the shell onto here, place it onto there so it's in the correct position. This one's going to make the indentation that I showed you before on the shell. As you can see there, you see the indentation now.
It's pretty tiny.
Yeah. So now this camera lens is going to measure that for us.
Yep.
That will bring us bang on to the outside of the circumference there. So that is the weight of that shell now, 34414, so that's fine.
And do you write that on now?
Yes, I'd write it on there, and that is above the softer shell I've got already, so that's fine to go over into that basket.
While they do it all, each one individually.
July
Wow.
2022, I spent time with a Ukrainian howitzer crew who were operating a Muster B, that's a 122mm gun. What I remember was the speed of how quickly they deployed. They got the fire order, they scrambled onto the road, drove to a firing position they'd already recce'd, set up the gun, fired, collapsed it, and disappeared. Because the risk for them was that as soon as they fired that first shot, they could be located by counter-battery radar. There was a slim chance even then of being spotted by surveillance drones, so they didn't want to spend a long time exposed in the open where they were firing. A few years later, I spent time with an AS-90 crew. So that was a Ukrainian crew operating an AS-90 mobile howitzer, a 155mm gun.
Is that a dugout? It looks like mud
Tunnel.
walls.
Yeah, I think it's a handmade tunnel or something.
Gun that had been donated by the UK to Ukraine. Very different threat, different environment, really showed me how the war had changed. That gun was in a concealed location near the front line. It rumbled out into a firing position, fired a couple of shots, and then disappeared. The risk for them was very much drones. Personal experience with artillery as a journalist goes back even further. I saw British airborne gunners from the 7th Royal Horse Artillery firing 105mm guns in Kajaki in Helmand in 2008. And then I saw that same type of gun being used by Ukrainian forces defending Bakhmut. I've also been on the wrong side of artillery barrages, and that's perhaps the most powerful way I've ever had of experiencing or understanding how powerful artillery can be as a weapon. And the first time it happened, I'll never forget it, was the second day of the war in Ukraine. And I was on the northern edge of Kharkiv city on a snowy embankment on the inside of the ring road, which was effectively the front line. And suddenly I saw all of the soldiers running into their narrow shell scrapes, and you heard the sort of whistle of shells hurtling over our heads, and then the thunderous boom as they exploded behind us because they'd been fired beyond the position where we were.
Mm. Wow. One thing I wonder about this is how accurate you can get with it, because it doesn't seem like you would be able to control it very well.
I don't know, but I hate war.
I do too. I was going to say, as cool as it is to see how this stuff is made and implemented, the reality of it is
It's just unfortunate.
You don't want this to have to be used. You don't want, like,
I mean, yeah, it's very cool to see it made. I find things like that very interesting, you know, but I wish.
But what it's used for, what it has
Right.
to be used for, like, it just.
It's such a why do we always have, you know, men in power, you know, starting wars?
Yeah.
Because it's not your average citizen that's want to start a war. It's always men in power that want to start wars. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just,
And they're not the ones who have to fight
and
it.
they are the ones that have to
They
fight
don't
it.
send their kids to it.
Not usually.
So
Yeah.
it's just,
Yeah, it's a shame.
This is stage 3 of the process. It's the finishing. Shells which start off like this. Semi-finished shells. They pour out the insides of them to make sure that the inside is smooth and that the walls of the shell are the right diameter. The soft.
What would happen if the insides weren't smooth? You got to wonder, would that be an issue for the people that are shooting them off?
I'm sure it probably wouldn't go off correctly.
That's what I'm thinking.
Or prematurely or something.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good, probably.
The thickness of the walls, the special calipers. You can see over here those green calipers to check. They're very precise. Everything's basically got to be the right shape. And this is the finishing section, same as we've just seen at the Royal Artillery line, but it's much more automated.
Fully automated line. It's the final stage of the shop
So
floor.
you're taking in sort of semi-finished shells, putting out finished shells.
Fully
How long does it
automated.
take for
The
the journey?
last stage of the process.
When a shell starts the journey, how long does it take to get to the other end?
About 40 minutes.
There's a lot more to this than I thought.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Any shell that's got any cracks internally, scrap off straight away.
Once they get melted down and put back in, or?
Right, no good.
So these are the bands, right?
These are the bands that go on the shell, yes.
So what's that made of?
Copper.
Okay, coppering, and that goes.
That goes on the shell in the first process, goes for the first band press, to get crimped, second band press, to get pushed into the dovetails, then goes into the sheet again.
Wow.
Drones have transformed warfare, not just in Ukraine, but right around the world. And of course, that's had an effect on artillery. Two main impacts. Firstly, for the gunners, an advantage. Surveillance drones can observe their targets, and that helps them correct their fire in real time. Gunner fires, drone watches, sees whether the shell lands on target, short, long, left or right. The gunners correct in real time. It makes them more precise more quickly.
Before
and avoids
that,
the risk of having a soldier
it would have been
much
or
more
someone
difficult.
out in that position where they'd be vulnerable. But there's also a disadvantage to the gunners. They can be spotted by drones.
By the
The moment
drones.
they fire, drones might detect them, and then once they've fired, drones can target them, either loitering munitions or FPV drones. So they have to operate a lot more quickly. As soon as they've fired, they have to try and hide or never be spotted in the first place.
Oh,
a lot higher
that would
stakes.
it is.
As we have the shot blast process, first thing that the operator will do is he's clean the nose, then he's going to put the lamp in and he's going to look for any defects within the cavity. It's now
Oh, he has to do that by eye, basically. Wow.
I'm going to brush the thread to make sure that there's no contamination in there before he puts the thread gauge in. Can't sell any shell out that's got magnetized in, so we're putting it through the magnetism now.
And that takes away.
That takes the magnetism out of the shell.
Oh, wow. How did it do that?
Well, it's the demagnifier.
Okay.
And that's the shell blast process.
The war in Ukraine sparked panic across NATO capitals about stockpiles of 155mm artillery ammunition. We reported here in the UK that Britain's stockpiles would run out in an afternoon of a shooting war with Russia. But of course, the problem was far more acute in Ukraine. They needed tens of thousands of shells a month to keep their guns firing. Now, the exact production rates in the UK are strictly classified, but there are plenty of military types who think that production was not enough, is still not enough. To try and get a better handle on this, I went to see Steve Cardew, the Business Development Director of the BAE Munitions business at BAE's London headquarters.
So no one really knows how many are being produced per month?
Well, I wouldn't say no one.
No, I'm saying no
but
one,
it's very
no
inclusive,
civilians.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, people obviously within the business know how many, but like he might know how many, but no one else really does.
Yeah.
End of World War II, 43 sites, 16,000 people, and then the beginning of the war in Ukraine, 5 sites, 1,200 people.
Exactly.
And where are we now?
So, we heard from very early on in that period, we worked quite extensively with the UK customer to figure out what we needed to do, how much we need to scale our production. And one of the most key elements there was 155, where we scaled production initially 8-fold, but through the course of the programme, we've now moved that to 16-fold. And in terms of number of people, we're now at about 1,800 people. So that's almost a 45% increase in terms of where we were.
A 45% increase in personnel.
Crazy.
I'm right in thinking the numbers of shells that you make are classified. You can't reveal that.
We can't talk specifically about that.
Steve, what's the most important thing about an artillery shell? What makes these shells better than other shells?
Well, I mean, there's 2 things. I mean, the sort of the range and the kinetic performance are really important, clearly. That's
how far it goes and what it does at the other end.
Exactly, and that's what the user really sort of expects. But the thing that's probably more subtle, but probably more important, is also the safety performance of the shell. The user really needs to understand that when he fires it, it's going to leave the gun safely and it's going to perform as intended.
Can you talk us through what's happening and what you do?
Yeah, of course. The product comes into here. We load them onto the baskets. The transporter, which is overhead, comes in, picks the baskets up, takes them through the treatment process. Transporter will take it through 7 tanks. 7 tanks. 7 tanks in total.
7 tanks?
Each the first and second one are going to clean the shells, cleaning it, yeah. And then the 3rd and 4th is rinse. So it rinses the guard clean and any dirt stuff off the shell. Then it goes into tank 5, which is the oxalat, which is the key for the paint. It acts like a primer for the paint to go onto.
Why is he called a fire warden?
I don't know.
Then 6 and 7 is a rinse, clean the shell again. Okay. And it lands in this bay here. Operators on the bottom. They'll lift them out the baskets onto the table. They'll put the silicon masking band on, which protects the driving band from the paint. They'll put the metal hanger on, which allows them to hang it onto the paint plant, which is the next step of the process.
Fantastic. Can we watch one of these coming
Yeah,
out?
no bother, yeah.
I wonder why the paint is necessary.
I was literally about to say that.
It just seems like an extra expense or something.
I mean, is
Extra time and then-
it's green? Is it to camouflage it for some reason?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, this is the varnishing room, so that's your lance. Your spray
Because
lance
otherwise
there.
it's
That
shiny.
goes
It's very
inside
shiny,
the
yeah.
shell, and that protects the metal from rust, and it makes it smooth. So that
Okay.
when you puncture the explosive bag that goes inside.
That makes sense. Then.
That does make
I get
sense.
that then. I thought it was just aesthetics.
Look at that, man. That thing's smooth.
It's operation 2 of the bond area.
What's happening here?
What's happening here is when the rubber band that we spoke about before is removed, it can leave a slightly hard edge of paint on the edge of the driving band, which is the copper band. So all that the operator's doing here is removing that hard edge of paint, but you're not allowed to have any paint on the band.
I wonder what his accent is. It's
Not
very
sure.
unique.
Not sure.
This is the nose lifter. Obvious
No,
reasons.
Lifter.
Goes into the nose, clamps inside. and then we use it to lift the shell into the box.
There we have it, a 155mm shell, artillery shell, at the end of its journey through this factory. That is the round that flies from an artillery gun. It's not quite ready to be fired. There are a few other steps that it needs to go through before it is effectively a round that will be handed into the hands of an artillery gunner, a soldier.
Yeah.
But in terms of how that bit's made at this factory, this BAE Systems factory here in Washington, that is the end of our journey. And thank you to everyone from BAE. Thank you again for watching.
Where is Washington at, by the way?
I don't know. I didn't know there was a Washington in the UK.
It doesn't surprise me.
Me either.
But, you know, I don't know if I've ever heard of Washington, UK.
I'm going to look.
But guys, these are sharp. Like, at first I'm like, why in the world are they painting them? Like, the silver is just sharp and it's simpler. But is it... He said something about rust with the varnish.
Preventing.
Is that the reason for the paint as well, or just the varnish? You know what I mean?
Oh, I don't know.
Is the paint? I mean, they paint it green, so I'm wondering, is there a reason for that? Is that just camouflage or something?
Probably that, because like when it's that shiny steel, that's gonna reflect the sun and give your location away.
Yeah, I mean, is that the reason for that? I mean, it makes sense that would be the reason for that, right?
Washington, UK is.
Is it south or north?
It's north.
North.
Almost, yeah.
Okay.
Almost by the border of Scotland up there.
Oh, okay.
Northeast.
It sounded like some of these accents sounded sort of Scottish. So it would make sense that...
Sunderland is the closest big city I can see.
Oh. Well, anyways, guys, this was interesting.
It was.
I wish, again, like we said, I wish that they didn't need to be made. I wish we didn't have war. But unfortunately we do, and it's an interesting process.
I was honestly surprised how many steps there were.
I know.
For each individual bullet. Like,
where
it's just
is that?
crazy.
I want to see that again, because
that info thing where they were showing.
The last one. Wasn't it over here somewhere? There it is. Well, we're missing a few steps, but that's pretty impressive. You know, on the surface, when you think about, just hear about artillery shells, you see them, you're just thinking... You know, you don't really think of all the stuff that goes into it.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing how automated it is. I guess the automated process makes it to where it's, more precise probably.
Oh, I'm sure. Because, like, back in the day when you'd have to do all this by every step by hand.
Yeah.
It would have taken so long.
Yeah. You got to wonder, like, how many shells they're producing per day now. 24 hours a day. 1,800 people, I think, is what he said, if I'm not mistaken.
Employees.
Yeah, I think. I could be wrong with that, but that's what it sounds like.
16 or 18.
Yeah, but with the automated process, it sounds like they're producing quite a few.
Yeah, it's cut a lot of the time off, I'm sure.
Anyways, guys, I'm glad we checked this out. This was definitely eye-opening, to say the least. I'm really curious on how things are going in terms of the stockpile of artillery shells within Europe at this point. You know, when this was made, it wasn't too long ago. It sounds like there was a major shortage. And so I'm curious if that shortage has been rectified or if that's still ongoing. But hopefully the war will come to an end sometime in the near future. And hopefully it won't start back up, because I'm so tired of
endless war.
Yes, can we please finally have some peace in this world? It would be nice, right? But anyways, guys, I think that's it for us today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey. Until next time, peace.
Bye.